The UK has recorded its lowest number of deaths from confirmed cases of coronavirus since the lockdown began. Fatalities recorded at the weekend do tend to be lower than during the week because of delayed reporting, but the official figure today shows that 77 people died in the previous 24-hour period after testing positive for coronavirus. There were no deaths recorded in Scotland or in Northern Ireland. And that takes the overall coronavirus death toll in the UK to 40,542. The Health Secretary Matt Hancock denied today that the failure to lock down sooner had cost lives as he responded to the view of a senior scientist who advises the government. Dominic Hughes reports.
As the restrictions on daily life start to be eased, there are doubts. Are we coming out of lockdown too soon? But also, did we go in too late?
Yes, we should have gone into lockdown earlier. The data that we were dealing with in the early part of March and our kind of situational awareness was really quite poor. And so I think it would have been very hard to pull the trigger at that point. I wish we had. I think that has cost a lot of lives, unfortunately.
That's a judgment made with the benefit of hindsight, and one flatly contradicted by the Health Secretary.
No. I think we took the right decisions at the right time, and there's a broad range on SAGE of scientific opinion, and we were guided by the science, which means guided by the balance of that opinion.
This argument matters because of fears over the R number, a measure of how the virus is spreading. Overall, it's thought that infections are falling. The R is below 1. But one study suggests in the northwest of England it's just above 1, which could mean increasing infections, while in the southwest it's right on 1. And those concerns are especially acute here in the northwest of England. Some local councils have strongly advised schools not to reopen after half-term, even on a limited basis. And there are questions too over the wisdom of allowing shops like these to start trading again in just over a week's time. So, how to better manage different levels of threat across the country, when even at a local level, infection rates can vary.
Talk of putting communities under lockdown, we don't think is helpful. Some of our council leaders think it's simply unenforceable. So it does seem to me that a new approach is needed if we're to make sense of the challenge that we now have. And that's what we're calling for with the government today, a kind of closer partnership.
And from Scotland, some welcome news. For the first time since mid-March, no new COVID deaths reported in the past 24 hours.
I would offer a note of caution about reading too much into today's figure. We know that fewer deaths tend to be registered at the weekend than on other days of the week. It is still very likely that further COVID deaths will be reported in the days ahead.
Overall, the statistics across the UK do seem to be heading in the right direction. But this is still a dangerous moment, and the future is full of risk. Dominic Hughes, BBC News, Manchester.
New quarantine rules for passengers entering the UK come into force tomorrow as 3 airlines begin a legal challenge to them. The system will require most people to self-isolate for 14 days. Well, our business correspondent Katie Austin is here in the studio. What is the basis for the airlines taking the legal action?
Well, ever since the prospect was first raised of a quarantine on people arriving into the UK, the aviation and travel sectors have voiced concerns that it would put people off travelling and would cost thousands of jobs. This legal challenge is by 3 airlines, British Airways, EasyJet and Ryanair, and they have written to the government outlining why they think these measures are unjustified. One of the arguments, they say, is that actually the quarantine is more stringent than the guidelines applied to people who actually have COVID-19. But this legal challenge is at its very earliest stage at the moment. There is no way it's going to stop the quarantine coming into force in just under 2 hours now at midnight. And also there has been further criticism today from the company which operates the Channel Tunnel. Its boss has written to the Prime Minister, in fact, saying there was only limited consultation on this process and that the situation that's resulted is going to put a vital supply link, well, it's going to make it very inefficient, he says, put that supply link at risk. Now, the government has stuck to its guns and said the quarantine is the right thing to be doing. It's backed by the science. It's necessary to prevent a second wave. But the quarantine is due to be reviewed in 3 weeks' time.
Katie, thank you very much.